Undercover CEO Millionaire found a new waitress sleeping in the restaurant booth after work. What he? Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Emma Brooks, a young woman in her mid-20s, was not exactly the type to find herself at fancy New York restaurants. As a waitress working double shifts to pay the rent, she couldn't remember the last time she felt truly at ease. Tonight was no different. She'd promised her best friend, Jenny, she'd go through with this blind date, even though her heart wasn't in it. Her second-hand dress clung awkwardly to her frame, and her shoes, well, they were scuffed, barely hanging together, just like the rest of her life. She stepped inside the restaurant, taking a deep breath as the warm glow of the chandeliers hit her. The sound of quiet conversations and the clinking of silverware created a world of elegance that Emma didn't quite belong to. The world of the rich, the polished, the successful. Her eyes scanned the room, heart pounding. Table 7. Table 7, she muttered under her breath. She finally spotted a man sitting alone at a table in the back, looking at his phone, dressed sharply in a sleek black suit. There he was. Kevin. Or at least, she thought it was him. She gathered her nerves and walked over to him, trying her best to put on a smile. Hi, you must be Kevin. I'm Emma. Nice to meet you, she said, her voice a little shaky. Liam Parker, who had been distracted by his phone, looked up at her, his eyes widening slightly in confusion. He blinked at her, clearly taken off guard. Hi, Emma. The moment was awkward, but Emma, eager to push through the discomfort, slid into the seat across from him. Her hands fidgeted in her lap as she tried to make small talk. I know this is a little awkward. Blind dates are always a bit weird, right? Jenny told me. You might be a little shy, so don't worry. I can talk enough for the both of us. Liam opened his mouth to correct her, but hesitated. His business associate had just canceled their meeting, and something about Emma's nervous smile made him pause. She was nothing like the polished socialites and business partners he usually dealt with. There was a raw honesty about her that intrigued him. A slight smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Right, blind dates are something else, he said. Emma laughed nervously, picking up her glass of water. Tell me about it. Jenny's been trying to set me up for months, but I've been too busy with work. You know, work? She said, trying to fill the silence. Liam raised an eyebrow, curious despite himself. What do you do? I'm a waitress, Emma replied, fidgeting with the napkin in front of her. Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills. Well, most of them anyway, she added with a soft chuckle. What about you? I work in tech, Liam said, his voice soft, and his smile grew a little wider. Emma beamed at him. Tech? That's cool. Coding and apps and stuff, right? I'm terrible with computers, she admitted. Something like that, Liam replied, leaning back in his chair. Despite the awkwardness of the situation, Emma found herself laughing more than she had in weeks. There was something about him, his calm, reserved nature that felt different from the usual people she had to deal with. You're not what I expected, Emma said suddenly, her voice thoughtful. What do you mean? Liam asked, genuinely curious now. Well, Jenny said you were a little quiet, but you're actually easy to talk to, she explained. Liam chuckled softly. You're easy to talk to, too. He leaned back in his chair, looking at her with a bit more interest. It was strange. For some reason, he didn't want this conversation to end. Just then, Emma's phone buzzed. She pulled it out of her bag, her heart sinking as she read the message. Hey Emma, where are you? I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you, Kevin. Emma froze, her face turning crimson with embarrassment. She looked up at Liam, her heart racing. You're not Kevin, are you? She whispered, barely above a breath. Liam's smile faltered, a flicker of guilt crossing his face. No, I'm not. The words hit her like a ton of bricks. She stood up abruptly, her heart racing. Oh my God, she muttered, grabbing her coat and heading for the door, her face burning with humiliation. Liam stood up too, but she was already out the door before he could say anything. He watched her go, a strange mix of regret and curiosity swirling inside him. Something about her had caught his attention in a way no one had in a long time. As he sat back down, staring at the empty seat across from him. He couldn't help but wonder why he felt so disappointed at the thought of never seeing her again. It had been 2 days since Emma's embarrassing blind date mix-up at the restaurant. Every time she thought about it, her face burned with shame. She hadn't expected much from a date set up by her best friend, but this was a whole new level of awkward. Still, she couldn't stop thinking about Liam, his calm, collected demeanor, and the odd sense of comfort he gave her, even though he wasn't Kevin. What did it mean? She couldn't explain it. But when her shift ended that evening, she thought she had put it behind her. She was too busy keeping her head down and working hard to dwell on it. However, fate had other plans. As she wiped down the tables in the nearly empty restaurant, she noticed a familiar figure standing by the door. It was Liam. He wasn't in his usual sharp suit, but rather dressed casually in jeans and a t-shirt. His eyes scanned the room before they landed on her. Emma froze for a moment. He was here. Why was he here? Had he come to find her? Emma, he said, his voice surprisingly warm. She blinked, trying to mask her surprise. Liam? What are you doing here? Liam gave a small smile, his hands shoved in his pockets. I wanted to apologize for the other day. I know that must have been uncomfortable for you. Emma felt a wave of embarrassment wash over her again. It's fine. Really, she said quickly, wiping her hands on the cloth in her apron. No harm done. Liam stepped forward, his expression softening. It wasn't fine, Emma. I should have said something earlier, but I didn't. I didn't want to make things worse. Emma hesitated, unsure of what to say. She wasn't used to rich, successful men like him apologizing for anything, let alone for something so trivial. But his sincerity was hard to ignore. Why are you really here, Liam? She asked, looking him in the eye. I was hoping we could talk, he said, his gaze steady. Not about the date, but about you. I know you're struggling, and I think I can help. Emma's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? I've been watching you, Liam continued, not skipping a beat. You work hard. You care about people, even when things aren't going well for you. I admire that. She took a step back, surprised by his words. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not saying this to make you uncomfortable, Liam said quickly. I own a company, and I'm looking for someone who shares my values. Someone who isn't just after a paycheck, but genuinely cares. I want to offer you a job. Emma blinked in shock. A job? You want me to work for you? He nodded. Yes. I think you'd be great at it. She shook her head, still processing his offer. But I'm just a waitress. I don't have the experience you're looking for. Liam smiled softly. You don't need experience for this. I need someone with heart. Someone who will put others first, like you do. Emma's chest tightened. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. Was he just feeling sorry for her? But the sincerity in his voice was undeniable. He wasn't the type to offer charity. I don't know what to say, she whispered. You don't have to say anything right now, Liam said, his voice gentle. Just think about it. You have nothing to lose. But everything is going wrong for me, Emma admitted, her voice trembling. I can't even pay my rent this month. She looked away, her eyes filling with tears she couldn't hold back any longer. I'm so tired. Tired of working so hard, and still being stuck in the same place. Liam's expression softened, and for the first time since he entered the restaurant, he reached out and gently touched her arm. Emma, he said quietly, I understand. I've been there too. Sometimes it takes someone else believing in you before you can believe in yourself. She looked up at him, searching his eyes for any sign of insincerity, but all she saw was truth. He was serious. He wasn't offering her a handout. He was offering her an opportunity to change her life. The thought was overwhelming. I don't know if I can take this job, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I'm not sure I'm the right person for it. Liam nodded. I understand. It's a big decision. Just think about it. There's no pressure. As he turned to leave, he paused at the door, glancing back at her one last time. Take your time, Emma. I'll be here when you're ready. With that, he was gone, leaving Emma alone with her thoughts. She stood there for a long time, the weight of his offer hanging heavily in the air. Could she do it? Could she take a leap of faith and trust that someone like him could actually care? Or was this just another pipe dream she would watch slip through her fingers? The doubt in her mind was overwhelming, but something about his words stuck with her. Maybe this was her chance. Maybe this was her way out. It had been a week since Liam's offer, and Emma still couldn't get it out of her head. Every day, she woke up and went to work, feeling the weight of the decision hanging over her. The restaurant was quieter than usual, and the shift seemed longer. She couldn't help but replay the conversation she had with Liam over and over. Could she really take a job with him? She wasn't sure what it would mean for her, or how she could even fit into a world so different from her own. Still, part of her was drawn to the possibility of something better, something more. On her break one afternoon, Emma sat on the back steps of the restaurant, her mind racing. It was a beautiful day, the sun shining brightly, but she couldn't seem to escape the heaviness in her chest. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Liam. "Hey Emma, I know you're busy, but I just wanted to check in. I hope you've had time to think about the offer. If you're ready, I'd love to meet up and talk more." Her heart skipped a beat. Was she really ready? Could she really make the leap? She stared at the screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard as she debated what to say. Finally, she typed back, "Okay, let's meet." The next day, Emma found herself sitting across from Liam in a small cafe, a place far less fancy than where they had met before, but it was perfect for what she needed. She had been nervous all morning, but now that she was here, with him, she felt strangely calm. "Thank you for agreeing to meet me," Liam said, his usual calm smile on his face. "I know this is a big step." Emma nodded, her fingers gripping the edge of her coffee cup. "I've been thinking about what you said," she began, her voice soft. "And I don't know if I'm the right person for this job. I'm just a waitress. I don't have any experience in anything else. And I feel like I'm barely keeping it together as it is." Liam listened quietly, his eyes fixed on her, his expression thoughtful. "I understand. But let me tell you something," he said, leaning forward slightly. "You're not just a waitress, Emma. You're someone who works hard, who cares about people, and who doesn't give up, no matter how tough things get. That's what I need. That's what this company needs. And I know you're capable of more than you give yourself credit for." Emma looked down at her hands, trying to process his words. She had never seen herself like that, never thought of herself as someone who could make a difference in a business. She had always just done what she had to do to survive. But Liam's words had a way of making her feel like maybe she was capable of more. "I don't know, Liam. I've spent my whole life just trying to get by. I've never had anyone believe in me like you do." Liam's gaze softened, and he reached across the table, placing his hand gently over hers. "I believe in you, Emma. And I think you need to believe in yourself too." For the first time, Emma felt the stirring of hope in her chest. Could she really take this chance? Could she trust Liam, trust herself, and step into a future that wasn't filled with fear and uncertainty? "Okay," she said, her voice steady but unsure. "I'll do it. I'll take the job." Liam's face broke into a wide grin. "I'm so glad to hear that, Emma. You won't regret it, I promise." As they finished their coffee, Liam went over the details of the job with her. It wasn't a huge leap, not at first. He explained that she would start by working on small projects with the team, learning the ropes, and seeing how she fit into the company's culture. It was more than just a job. It was an opportunity for her to grow, to learn, and to build something for herself. Emma left the cafe with a sense of calm that she hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time, she felt like she had control over her future. It wasn't going to be easy, and there were still a lot of challenges ahead, but at least now she knew she had someone who believed in her. And maybe, just maybe, that was all she needed to start believing in herself. The next day, Emma walked into the office for her first day at work, her heart pounding with nervous excitement. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she knew one thing. She was going to give it her all. This was her chance to change her life, and she wasn't going to waste it. Emma had been at the new job for 2 weeks, and while every day still felt like a challenge, she was beginning to feel a sense of belonging. The first few days had been overwhelming. So much to learn, so many new faces, and a world of corporate structure she wasn't used to. But with each passing day, she found herself growing more confident. She was learning fast, picking up new skills, and surprisingly, enjoying it. She'd never imagined working in a high-paced office could feel this way. Liam had kept his promise. He had given her a chance, and he had stood by her every step of the way, guiding her through the challenges and celebrating her small victories. Emma found herself admiring him more with each day that passed. Not just because he had given her the opportunity, but because of the way he treated people, genuinely, with respect, and never looking down on them. He was a CEO, but he never acted like one in a way that made her feel inferior. Instead, he made her feel like she was a valuable part of something bigger. On her third day, Liam had asked her to come into his office. She was nervous, unsure of what it meant, but when she walked in, he greeted her with a smile. "Hey Emma, how are you settling in?" he asked, his tone warm and friendly. "I'm doing better," she replied, smiling shyly. "It's still a lot to take in, but I'm starting to get the hang of things." "I'm glad to hear that," Liam said, leaning back in his chair. "You've been doing a great job. I wanted to talk to you about something." Emma's heart skipped a beat. Was this it? Was he going to fire her? Had she messed up somehow? "Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice betraying her nerves. Liam chuckled softly. "Everything's fine, Emma. I just wanted to tell you that I've been really impressed with your work so far. You're picking up things faster than I expected, and I think you're ready for something more." Emma blinked, unsure she had heard him correctly. "Something more?" "Yeah," Liam said with a nod. "I'd like to offer you a bigger role on the team. There's a project coming up that I think you'd be perfect for. It's a big opportunity, and I want to see how you handle it." "You in?" Emma's mind raced. A bigger role? A project? This was exactly the kind of opportunity she had been hoping for. But doubts crept in. Could she really do it? She wasn't sure. "I don't know," she said slowly. "I mean, I haven't been here long, and I don't know if I'm ready for something that big." Liam leaned forward, his gaze steady. "Emma, I've been watching you. You've got the skills, the drive, and the heart. You're more than ready. You've already proven that." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had never been one to take risks, to step up when it mattered. But maybe, just maybe, this was the moment she had been waiting for. The moment when everything could change. "I'll do it," she said, surprising even herself. "I'll take the project." Liam's smile widened. "I knew you would. You're going to do great." As the days passed, Emma threw herself into the project with everything she had. She spent long hours researching, brainstorming, and working with her team. The more she worked, the more she realized how much she had grown since starting at the company. She wasn't the same person who had walked in on her first day, unsure of herself and terrified of failure. She was stronger now, more confident, and more capable. But just when she thought she had everything under control, a challenge arose. The project hit a snag, an issue that Emma hadn't anticipated, and one that threatened to derail everything. For a moment, she panicked. What if she couldn't fix it? What if she let Liam down? She spent the entire night trying to solve the problem, feeling the weight of it all. At one point, she almost gave up. But then, she remembered Liam's words, about having heart, about pushing through when things got tough. With renewed determination, she came up with a solution that saved the project. The next day, Liam called her into his office again. Emma was nervous, her stomach in knots. Had she messed up? "Emma," Liam said, looking at her with a proud smile, "you did it. You found a solution, and you handled the pressure like a pro. I knew you could do it." Emma's heart swelled with pride. She had done it. She had overcome the challenge, and she had proved to herself that she was capable of so much more than she had ever imagined. In that moment, she realized something important. This job, this chance Liam had given her, wasn't just about work. It was about believing in herself, about finding the strength to push through fear and uncertainty. It was about taking the leap, even when she wasn't sure what would happen next. And in that leap, she had found her true potential. As the weeks went by, Emma continued to excel in her new role, earning respect from her colleagues and growing stronger in her confidence. She had come a long way from the waitress who barely had enough to pay rent. Now, she was a woman who had found her place, who had found a purpose. And it was all thanks to Liam, for believing in her, even when she couldn't believe in herself. It had been 3 months since Emma had taken on the project, and the progress she had made was nothing short of incredible. Not only had she exceeded every expectation, but she had also gained the respect of her team and colleagues. Every day, she felt herself growing more into the woman she had always wanted to be, confident, capable, and driven. The job was everything she had hoped for, and more. She was no longer just a waitress. She was someone who had a real impact on the company, someone who could hold her own in meetings, someone who had a voice. But even with all this success, Emma found herself thinking about Liam more and more. He had been there for her, believing in her when she couldn't even believe in herself. He had given her the opportunity of a lifetime, and she knew that she owed him so much. He had become more than just her boss. He had become someone she respected deeply, someone she had grown to trust. Their professional relationship had always been friendly, but as the weeks went by, Emma couldn't deny the growing feeling she had for him. It wasn't just gratitude, it was something more. She found herself looking forward to their conversations, to the moments when he would check in on her progress, to the way his eyes would light up when she came up with a good idea. There was a connection between them, one that neither of them had acknowledged out loud, but it was undeniable. One afternoon, as Emma sat at her desk, going over some reports, she received an unexpected message from Liam. "Emma, I'd like to see you in my office when you get a moment." Her heart raced. Was something wrong? She had just finished a major presentation, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she might have messed up somehow. But when she walked into his office, she was greeted with his usual warm smile. "Hey, Emma," he said, standing up from his desk. "Come in. Have a seat." "Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice betraying her nerves. Liam smiled reassuringly. "Everything's great. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something important." Emma took a seat, her heart pounding in her chest. "What is it?" Liam took a deep breath, his expression serious. "I've been thinking a lot lately about how much you've grown since you started here. You've really come into your own, and I'm proud of everything you've accomplished." Emma felt a surge of pride at his words, but also a hint of anxiety. She wasn't sure where this conversation was headed. "Thank you, Liam," she said quietly. "It's all because of the opportunity you gave me. I'm just doing my best." Liam nodded, his gaze softening. "You've more than earned it, Emma. But I want to offer you something more." Emma raised an eyebrow, unsure of what he meant. "More?" "Yes," Liam said, walking around to the other side of his desk. "I've been thinking about your future here, and I'd like to offer you a permanent leadership role. I think you're ready for it. You've proven yourself, and I want to give you the chance to take on more responsibility." Emma sat in stunned silence. A leadership role? She had never considered herself a leader, but the idea of stepping up in that way was both thrilling and terrifying. "Liam, I don't know if I'm ready for something like that," she said, her voice uncertain. "I don't have the experience that other people might have." Liam smiled warmly. "That's the thing, Emma. You don't need experience. You have something more important, a genuine heart. You care about this company, you care about people, and you've shown that time and time again. That's what makes a great leader." Emma's mind was racing. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for, but it also felt like a huge leap. Could she really step into a role like that? Could she take on the responsibility and lead others? "I believe in you, Emma," Liam continued. "I know this might seem overwhelming, but I think you're more than ready for it. You've proven that already." For a moment, Emma felt like the ground had shifted beneath her feet. She had always been the one working behind the scenes, never the one in the spotlight, never the one making the big decisions. But this was her chance to change everything. "I'm honored, Liam," Emma said, her voice filled with emotion. "I'll take the job." Liam's smile widened. "I knew you would. I'm excited to see what you'll do next, Emma. I have no doubt you'll be amazing." As Emma left his office, her mind was spinning. A permanent leadership role? She could hardly believe it. She had come so far from the woman who was once terrified to even walk into an office, unsure of her worth. And now, here she was, ready to take on a role that could change everything for her. The future was wide open, and she finally felt like she had the courage to step into it. That night, as Emma sat at her desk going over her plans for the upcoming months, she couldn't help but think back to where it all began. She was no longer the same person she had been when she first walked into this office, uncertain of her place in the world. She had found her purpose, her strength, and with Liam's support, she knew she could accomplish anything. She had come a long way, but this was only the beginning. It had been 2 months since Emma had taken on the leadership role at the company, and everything had changed. The transition hadn't been easy. There were still days when she felt overwhelmed, unsure of herself, and stretched thin. But as time went on, she grew more confident in her abilities. Every challenge, every problem, was a learning experience. She was no longer just reacting to situations. She was making decisions, leading her team, and creating a space where others felt empowered to share their ideas. And, more than anything, she felt like she was making a real impact. Liam had been right all along. She had the heart, the drive, and the potential. She just needed someone to believe in her. And now, she was doing the same for others. Her team respected her, and she had built strong relationships with them. She had become someone they could rely on, someone who could see the bigger picture and lead them to success. But even with all this progress, there was one thing Emma had yet to confront: her feelings for Liam. Since the day he offered her the leadership role, things had shifted between them. They had always had a professional relationship, but now, the lines were blurred. Emma couldn't deny that there was a connection between them, one that felt more than just friendly. She caught herself thinking about him more often, wondering what it would be like to spend time with him outside of the office. But she couldn't shake the fear that acknowledging these feelings might jeopardize everything they had built together. She had never been one to mix work with personal life, especially with someone as important as Liam. But her feelings were becoming harder to ignore. One evening, as Emma worked late at her desk, she was startled when Liam appeared in the doorway. "Hey, Emma," he said, his usual smile in place. But there was something different in his eyes. "I didn't expect you to still be here." "I'm just finishing up a few things," Emma replied, her voice steady, though her heart was racing. "You've been putting in a lot of hours lately. I wanted to make sure you're okay." His concern made her pause. She looked up at him, taking in the way he was standing, his posture relaxed. But there was a depth to his gaze that made her feel like he was searching for something more than just a casual check-in. "I'm fine," she said, offering him a small smile. "Just a lot on my plate." "I get that," Liam said, walking into the room and sitting across from her. "But don't forget to take care of yourself. You've been doing an incredible job, but I don't want you to burn out." Emma appreciated his concern, but there was a part of her that didn't want to admit how much she was struggling to balance everything. She had never been the type to ask for help, to show weakness. "I'm managing," she said, pushing the worry aside. "I'll be okay." Liam studied her for a moment, his gaze softening. "You don't have to do it all alone, you know," he said quietly. "I'm here if you need someone to talk to." The words hit her harder than she expected. She had been so focused on proving herself that she hadn't realized how much she needed someone to lean on. And that someone, it seemed, had always been Liam. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could speak, there was a knock at the door. "Emma?" One of her team members called from outside. "The meeting is about to start. Are you coming?" Emma stood up quickly, grateful for the distraction. "I'll be right there," she called out, before turning back to Liam. "Thanks, Liam. I'll see you at the meeting." He nodded, standing up as well. "Take care of yourself, Emma. We don't want to lose you." His words lingered in the air long after he left. For the rest of the evening, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them. There was a tension now, an unspoken understanding that they both had feelings for each other, but neither of them was ready to acknowledge it. The following days were filled with more work, but Emma found herself distracted, unable to focus fully on her tasks. Her mind kept drifting back to Liam, to the way he looked at her, to the way he cared about her in a way that felt different from anyone else. She didn't know where this would lead, or if it would lead anywhere at all. But one thing was clear: she couldn't keep ignoring her feelings. Eventually, she would have to face them. And when she did, she wasn't sure what would happen. But for now, she was content to keep moving forward, both in her career and in her personal life, taking it one day at a time. It had been a week since that conversation with Liam, and Emma couldn't stop thinking about what he had said. She had tried to push her feelings aside, focusing on her work and the responsibilities of her new role, but it was becoming harder and harder to ignore the growing connection between them. Every time they spoke, every time they shared a moment, it felt like something more than just a professional relationship. It was undeniable. The tension between them was palpable, but neither of them had said anything about it. Emma wasn't sure how to bring it up, or even if she should. She had never been one to mix business with personal feelings, and the last thing she wanted was to complicate things. But every time she saw Liam, she felt a spark that made her heart race. The way he looked at her, the way he cared, it was impossible to ignore. One afternoon, after another successful presentation to the board, Emma found herself standing in front of the office building, staring out at the city. It had been a long day, and she was ready to go home. But as she waited for her car, she saw Liam walking toward her. He was dressed casually, but there was something about his presence that made her pulse quicken. "Hey, Emma," he greeted her with his usual warm smile. "How's your day going?" Emma turned to face him, surprised to see him there. "Liam, hey. It's been a long day, but good. How about you?" He shrugged, his eyes twinkling. "Same here. Long day, but worth it. I wanted to talk to you about something, if you have a minute." Emma's heart skipped a beat. "Of course. What's up?" Liam hesitated for a moment, then took a step closer. I know we've both been busy lately, and I wanted to check in. Not just as your boss, but as someone who's become a friend to you. You've been putting in a lot of work, and I can see how much you've grown since you started here. I'm proud of you. Emma's cheeks flushed at his words. She wasn't used to this kind of praise, especially not from Liam. He wasn't the type to give compliments unless he really meant it. And hearing him say it made her feel like everything she had worked for was worth it. Thank you, Liam. That means a lot, she said, her voice soft. I'm just doing my best. I know you are, Liam replied, his tone gentle. And I want to make sure you're doing okay, too. I know the pressure can get overwhelming, and I just want to make sure you're taking care of yourself. Emma was taken aback by his sincerity. It was the kind of concern she wasn't used to receiving from anyone, let alone her boss. I'm fine, she said quickly, but then she paused, realizing that it wasn't true. Actually, it's been a bit much lately. I'm trying to keep up with everything, but sometimes it feels like I'm running on empty. Liam nodded, his expression understanding. I get that. You've been pushing yourself hard, and I don't want you to burn out. You're doing incredible work, but you also need to take care of yourself. You don't have to do it all alone, Emma. Emma felt a lump form in her throat. It had been so long since anyone had cared enough to check in on her like this. She had always been the one to take care of others, to handle everything on her own, but in that moment, she realized how much she had been missing. Thank you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I appreciate it, more than you know. Liam smiled softly. I'm serious, Emma. You don't have to carry everything by yourself. If you ever need to talk or need help with anything, you know where to find me. Emma nodded, her chest tight with gratitude. She had come so far in her career, but it wasn't just the success that mattered to her anymore. It was the people she worked with, the relationships she had built, and the way they made her feel like she was part of something bigger. And Liam had become a big part of that. As the night began to fall, Emma and Liam stood there in silence for a moment, the city lights casting a warm glow around them. There was a tension in the air, something unspoken, but neither of them seemed ready to address it just yet. Instead, Liam spoke again, breaking the silence. How about we grab some dinner? He asked, his voice light. I know a place that's not too far from here. My treat. Emma smiled, a little surprised by the invitation, but also feeling a strange sense of calm at the thought of spending time with him outside of work. That sounds nice, she said, her heart fluttering slightly. I'd like that. As they walked to the restaurant, Emma couldn't help but feel a shift within herself. She had spent so much time focused on proving her worth, on achieving success, that she had forgotten what it felt like to simply enjoy life. But with Liam, she felt like she was rediscovering that. Maybe this was the beginning of something more. Maybe this was the moment when everything would change. But for now, all she could do was take it one step at a time. It had been a few weeks since Emma and Liam had shared that dinner, and things between them had started to shift in a way neither of them had expected. After that evening, they found themselves talking more often, not just about work, but about their lives, their experiences, and the things that mattered to them. The connection between them was undeniable, and it was clear that they both felt something more than just friendship or professional respect. Yet, neither of them had addressed it directly. They were both careful, unsure of how to navigate the line between personal and professional, afraid that crossing it might change everything. Emma spent most of her days at the office, her role growing with each passing week. She was thriving in the leadership position Liam had offered her, gaining the confidence to speak up in meetings, make decisions, and guide her team through challenging projects. She had become someone others looked to for guidance, and it felt incredible. But despite all her professional achievements, her thoughts often wandered back to Liam. There were moments when their eyes met across the office, and for a fleeting second, it felt like there was no one else in the room. But the uncertainty lingered, and Emma wasn't sure what to do with the feelings she had for him. One day, after a particularly intense meeting, Emma was heading back to her office when she was stopped by Liam. He had a look on his face that was different from his usual calm demeanor. There was a vulnerability to it. Emma, can we talk for a minute? He asked, his voice softer than usual. Emma nodded, her heart skipping a beat. Of course. What's on your mind? He gestured for her to follow him to the break room, and as they sat down with their coffee, Liam let out a long sigh. I've been thinking a lot about us, he said, looking at her with a seriousness that made her pulse quicken. About the way things have been between us. I feel like we're walking around this unspoken tension, and I don't want to keep pretending like it's not there. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected him to bring it up, but now that he had, she found herself struggling to find the right words. I don't know what to say, she admitted, her voice a little shaky. I've been feeling the same way, but I didn't want to risk ruining everything between us. I value our professional relationship too much. Liam nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. I get that. I do. But I also think it's time we stop pretending like this isn't something more. I've been thinking about you, about us, and I don't want to ignore it anymore. Emma's heart was pounding in her chest. She had known, deep down, that this conversation was inevitable. But hearing him say it out loud made everything feel real, and the weight of it was almost too much to bear. I don't want to complicate things, she said quietly, looking down at her coffee cup. I've worked so hard to get to where I am, and I don't want to risk losing everything we've built. Liam reached across the table and gently lifted her chin, making her look at him. Emma, I'm not asking you to throw everything away. I'm asking you to take a chance. On us. On what could be. Something real. We don't have to have all the answers right now, but I don't want to keep pretending like we don't feel what we feel. Emma's mind was racing. She had spent so much time building her career, focusing on her independence, and now, here was Liam, offering something that could change everything. She wasn't sure if she was ready for that, but she also couldn't deny the pull she felt toward him. What if it doesn't work? She asked softly, her voice trembling slightly. What if we risk everything and it falls apart? Liam's expression softened, and he took a deep breath. Then we'll handle it together. We're not perfect, but I believe in us. And I believe in you. Emma looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity there. She had never been one to take risks, to let her guard down, but something in Liam's words made her feel like this was the moment. Maybe it wasn't about having all the answers. Maybe it was about taking a leap of faith. Okay, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I'll take the chance. Liam's face broke into a smile, and for the first time in a long time, Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her. She didn't know what the future would hold, but for the first time in a while, she felt ready to face it, to embrace whatever came next. As she left the break room, she felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing for sure. This was the beginning of something new, something real. And whatever happened, she was ready for it. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotions and change for Emma and Liam. Their relationship, which had once been strictly professional, had blossomed into something more, something real. They were careful at first, hesitant to let anyone know about their feelings, but as time went on, the connection between them grew stronger. They spent more time together, not just at the office, but outside of work as well. Dinner dates, walks in the park, long conversations about everything and nothing. It felt natural, easy, like they had always known each other. Emma's world had shifted in ways she hadn't expected. She was no longer just the girl trying to prove herself, struggling to keep her head above water. She was now a leader, not just at work, but in her own life. She had learned to trust herself, to believe in her own worth, and to embrace the opportunities that came her way. But even more than that, she had learned to let go of her fears, to take risks, and to open herself up to the possibility of love. With Liam, she felt like she could be her true self, vulnerable, strong, and everything in between. They supported each other in ways Emma had never experienced before. Whenever she faced a challenge at work, Liam was there, offering his guidance and encouragement. And when he had his own struggles, Emma was there for him, reminding him of the strength and resilience he had always shown. One evening, after a particularly long day, Liam invited Emma to dinner at one of their favorite spots, a quiet little restaurant tucked away in a corner of the city. As they sat across from each other, enjoying their meal, Emma couldn't help but feel grateful for everything that had happened. It felt like a dream, one she hadn't even dared to imagine. But now here she was, sitting next to Liam, her partner in both life and work. I've been thinking a lot about us, Liam said, his voice soft but filled with conviction. And I know we've taken things slow, but I can't imagine my life without you in it. You've brought so much light and joy into my life, Emma, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had never expected this, never imagined that the man who had once been her boss, the man who had believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself, would be the one to ask her to spend forever with him. She looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of doubt, but all she saw was love, sincerity, and a future they could build together. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." Liam's smile was brighter than any she had ever seen before, and he reached across the table, taking her hand in his. In that moment, everything else faded away. It was just the two of them, sharing a moment of pure joy, knowing that they had found something special, something worth fighting for. As they left the restaurant that night, hand in hand, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had come a long way from the woman who had walked into that office, unsure of herself and uncertain of her future. She had taken chances, made decisions, and now she was standing on the edge of a new chapter in her life. She had everything she had ever wanted: love, success, and the courage to embrace whatever came next. And as she looked at Liam, the man who had helped her find her strength, she knew that together, they could face anything the future held. They were a team, and with him by her side, Emma felt ready to take on the world.